agriculture, food, and agribusiness. And it's my pleasure here to interview Nick Hendry from Stonecrest Engineering. So Nick, thanks for being with us today. Great to have you here.
Thanks, Jake.
Yeah. So you guys have been involved in a number of digester and gas movement projects and sales and so on. So we're hoping to talk about renewable natural gas and that marketplace and so on. So I wonder if you just start with an introduction of your company and what are the one or two key things you're working on today in that renewable natural gas space?
Yeah, so I guess we've been in the renewable gas space of the company since 2007, 2008. We helped design some of the first on-farm anaerobic digesters in the province. We've been actively involved in the space since then, always kind of pushing the boundaries. With our sister company in 2015, we built a compressed natural gas refueling station with the hopes to eventually move compressed renewable natural gas into that station. We're looking at a couple of projects currently to hopefully do that in the near future. So, on the biogas side, that's a 6 to 10 year project development timeline to get from general idea to putting a shovel against a project. But we're persistent, I guess, and it's looking like that should happen in the very near future. In the meantime, we've also participated in building a a renewable natural gas production facility at a partner farm where we buy the raw biogas from the farm, upgrade it, and sell it to end users across the country. So that was the first on-farm renewable natural gas to pipeline injection project in Ontario, and we participated in a couple of the other ones around the country before and since then as well. But we've kind of been active in the space since 2008, and I've been with the company since 2011. So we've been at this for a little while.
Yeah, great. So there's a variety of new markets for renewable natural gas sales opening up, but you have been successful in some of the earliest markets on renewable natural gas. I wonder if you could talk about what it looks like to be purchasing the raw biogas from the farmer, and then your steps of upgrading and so on, and then that sale to an end party. And just talk us through sort of the different steps of that, the transaction from the farmer, and then the transaction to the natural gas utility.
So I guess we can break that back a couple steps here. The raw biogas is an energy product. A lot of times it's burned in a cogeneration plant and turned into electricity. And that was what a lot of the first plants throughout southwestern Ontario and really around Canada have been. That technology has been well developed for a significant period of time, but a lot of the electricity markets were saturated. Europe and some Canadian companies actually developed some biogas separation where you can get the carbon dioxide and all the things that smell bad, like hydrogen sulfide and volatile organics, out of the gas. Those were developed in the early 2000s and were commercialized quite successfully beginning mid 2010s. We were watching that market because of our participation in it for a while. And then we noticed an opportunity with a large biogas pipe, a large digester that had some excess gas. Conditions in that particular location were particularly ideal just because of existing infrastructure in that area. And I guess maybe the main first thing to start with any biogas plant or renewable natural gas project is you got to look at what energy you have, whether it's manure, waste products, local food producers, local municipalities trying to get rid of their green bin waste. So that's your energy in, but then you also have to think about where the energy goes when you're done. So, that was the folly of a couple of the early electricity plants, is that they didn't have an electricity line big enough to dissipate all the energy that these farms were producing. And then they had to look for other places. And that's maybe one of the main drivers. We had a very large farm that was very interested in doing an anaerobic digester, but their electricity lines couldn't take the energy away. So that was what drove us to develop the CNG RNG station as a place to get rid of the gas. So, you have to look at the physical logistics problem of moving your gas to markets. And in the first plant that we built where we were selling RNG, we had kind of an ideal place to access market already on farm. On that beef farm, it's a much more challenging project to bring compressed natural gas, put gas in trailers and move it to the injection points. It's much more difficult in many rural Ontario locations or rural Canadian locations, even worse, Western Ontario, where we do most of our work. Like a lot of the prairies, although they have gas, they don't have a lot of place to put the energy when they're done. There's not enough locally connected markets to dissipate the large amounts of gas that are produced. So
we're interviewing today in October 2024. So what are the markets today that you see opening up? So which provinces or which gas utilities either have opportunities, or are you looking towards opportunities, or are there large industrial end users that are participating in a certain marketplace where that demand today, that market is open, or potentially you anticipate, an application window coming up?
yeah, so again, it depends. I'm going to say that a lot here. It depends on your financial requirements. We're seeing large industrial users looking for small quantities of gas at, the prices. Renewable natural gas is expensive because it comes with all the environmental attributes of a ton of carbon associated with the production sort of thing. So large industrial users that want kind of the PR and have internal corporate emissions guidances, they're willing to pay a spot price for small quantities of gas. Some utilities are throughout Canada have, are trying to buy gas, but the regulations around them, some provinces obligate them to buy RNG, and other provinces they prohibit them from buying RNG. And some are passive in their approach to it, but their customer bases don't tend to want to buy 20 years of renewable natural gas like a feed-in tariff program. So, it's a smorgasbord out there. We're seeing interest across utilities, large industrial users, and it's developing, but there's not a lot willing to pay the price of a RNG facility currently, but they are starting to peek their heads out. So doing your planning and determinations ahead of time to know how much your plant would cost for your feedstocks that you have on your farm or propose on your farm. And then making sure that you know your cost of operation and projected, expenses and delivery costs to the market, get you to the point where you can determine whether or not the offer is good enough to meet your internal financial objectives. One of the things that we're hoping happens is that there's an input tax credit for RNG. There doesn't currently exist one in October 2024. But that would be helpful towards, getting the cost of production to the price customers are willing to pay into line to get a positive financial return to the producers.
Great. You've worked with a number of farmers on trying to develop or developing projects. What do you see as warnings? Like, just be careful about this as you're going in. Or what do you see as a posture that a more successful farmer, you have to have this kind of attitude to things or whatever. So how should farmers, as they try to consider entering into this, what are the things they're going to be watching out for? Who are the people who are successful in these markets? What's your experience in walking along with early innovators on that?
Yeah, I guess We talked a fair bit about the first one, which is make sure you have access to a cost-effective delivery point. So make sure that you can dissipate your energy cost effectively to market, that you're not trucking too far, building too long of a pipeline.
So that's location.
So ability to dissipate your energy, access to adequately energized feedstocks. So whether it be enough manure, or enough, other agricultural byproducts or organic wastes, um, to have enough, you have to have enough energy coming in and you need to have enough energy going out. And then on the attitude based, I've never seen a digester be successful if the farm was thinking that they just needed one more revenue stream to diversify to make a little bit more money to save the farm. Um, Digesters in general are a big capital expense. They take a lot of access to your equity and capital. But if you have enough equity and capital to be able to ride through construction and any problems that come aboard, they'll make money, right? So, um, you know, if you can't pay to feed your cows and fix your tractors, you'll never make money dairy farming. But if you are adequately capitalized to feed your cows and look after them and pay the vets and and fix your equipment, then you can make money dairy farming, right? So it's a similar idea that undercapitalized projects tend to be very problematic. And people that think they are going to have everything come online exactly on time and under budget, and just sit back and watch the money come in, are in for a rude awakening. I think the other one that I see helping farms be successful is when they approach the digester as a method of solving their organics management problem on farm. So, somebody that thinks that, it's just a revenue stream, they don't tend to be as successful as people seeing it as a holistic part of their overall operation, right? So if they see it as a way to treat their manure, get their fiber content down, get their manure more pumpable, um, you know, increase the nutrient availability of their crops, be able to spread their material faster through drag lines easier, right? It's those are the projects that we see being more successful as if they look at it as part of their integrated operations and how it can benefit the operation as a whole instead of looking at the easy, quick money, because it's not easy and quick money. It's hard work and it takes time and effort. So I think the other, the caution there is that projects have to be big enough that they don't just chew up your free time, right? So if you're a small farm operator and you have a small digester, you have to take into account your invested time and effort of whether or not it could be better spent elsewhere, right? So if it's a big enough operation, you can often use it to pay full-time staff to run it, or use it to kind of fill up the time of your custom manure operator. But if you're trying to do it 2 hours a day while you're milking cows and doing your field work, it tends to take too much of your available free time to run properly.
Great advice there. What do you, when you look at kind of the next 5 years ahead, what are the one or two things that kind of make you most excited that you think farmers should be eagerly anticipating if they're already thinking of getting into this business? So what are the couple things coming that give you hope for the sector or that make you excited?
There's an emerging carbon market in Canada. So there's different regulations and things that are starting to take hold that are driving large carbon emitters to start to buy carbon credits and emissions credits that are driving them to pay a reasonable return price to the RNG producer. That's one thing that I see driving the market. The other is that there's some emerging technologies that are driving costs down
Hmm.
and some technologies that are helping with that manure management side. So digesters are very good at getting your manure liquidy, and then it makes it available to be processed further into thickened solids and recycling water. So we're seeing some of those technologies, being developed, but not yet fully commercialized or ready for prime time. Some early adopters in the US are starting to take hold of some of those. And I think they will help some of our larger farm operators start to be able to do some interesting things with their waste products. I incorrectly said that some of
Ah,
their nutrients can be more efficiently managed with some emerging technologies.
what do you just explain that just a bit? How do you foresee like a cleanish water stream that can be handled around the farmstead or whatever, and then a concentrated nutrient? What's the vision for how that will make things easier?
If you can get to the clean water, we see some of those emerging technologies getting back to getting the manure water clean enough to be drinking water. Wash waters, flush waters, depending on your level of treatment. And it separates out the phosphorus and nitrogen from the liquid a lot of times and puts it into a solid cake. So on farms where they're starting to get near inland phosphorus loading and nitrogen loading, you can start trucking effectively that manure and nutrient to depleted soils instead of overloading the nearby soils. And then you can take the less concentrated, diluted liquids into close by soils, and load those soils at a higher tonnage of waste, but the same nutrient value, so
The more
that
water.
you put more water on. We're seeing, certain jurisdictions where they're getting it to the point where they pivot irrigate that cleaned water during production because they don't burn their crops, they don't have the E. coli and contaminant worries. So they're increasing their yields for growing crops because they can put enough local water into close enough lands that they can directly irrigate it either through low trajectory guns or pivot irrigation. So, to me, that's being a manure nerd, that's kind of exciting to treat those products, get the trucking down, get costs down, increase crop yields, and stop overloading certain soils with phosphorus and getting it to depleted soils.
Excellent.
To me, those are exciting things.
Awesome. Well, it's been really great, Nick. Appreciate this. Appreciate all your sharing and taking the time with us today. And so on behalf of all the people on the tour here, thank you very much.
No trouble. Take care and enjoy the tour, everybody.